As always, for anybody that has been working with me while I've been on this live stream, it's going to sound repetitive. That's because it is. It's the same information day in and day out. So the process begins on the daily chart, right? I'm going on the daily chart. I'm looking at swing highs, swing lows, and FEGs. When price is located above a swing high or inside of a bearish FEG, I have a bearish bias. When price is located below a swing low or inside of a bullish FEG, I have a bullish bias. Okay, so it's very clear here that ES running above this swing high warrants a bearish bias, right? So this swing high from Wednesday was taken out here. And when you obtain a bias, what do you then look for to confirm that you should engage with that bias? SMT. So let's analyze. You can see that ES swept out the swing high. So looking for shorts makes sense. And it has something lower to reach for, right? Price is only ever doing two things. All right. Maybe this is one of the notes you should probably write down. Price is only ever doing two things. It's either running to a form of liquidity. Liquidity, in my opinion, are swing highs and swing lows, right? So it's either running to a form of liquidity, right? It ran above the swing high to grab liquidity, or it's rebalancing an imbalance, right? So you can see this imbalance here has not been rebalanced yet. Okay, so it grabbed the liquidity here. When it grabbed this liquidity, that's when I start looking for any cracks in correlation. If you hop over to NQ, it's correlated asset, right? NQ and ES are two correlated assets. It's very clear here, in my opinion. In my opinion, ES being above a swing high is a location to look for shorts. In my opinion, NQ showing bearish SMT because NQ did not run above that swing high. That shows that NQ is the weaker pair within a bearish bias, right? So now you have an idea. The idea is being bearish because ES ran above a swing high. Then getting a confirmation to that idea is looking for a crack in correlation. The crack in correlation is shown on NQ because NQ did not run above that same swing high. Okay. Understanding how to use cracks in correlation, you want to be shorting the weaker pair. You want to be longing the stronger pair. So chat, before I just continue to keep moving forward, which one's the weaker pair? Which one's the stronger pair? You tell me. Today, was NQ the weaker pair or was it the stronger pair? Which one was the stronger pair today? Which one was the weaker pair today? You tell me. Very good job. Very, very good job, chat. Very good job. I really can't get anything past you all now. NQ is clearly the weaker pair, says the SMT. Okay. So going in and looking for shorts on NQ this morning, in my opinion, that makes sense. Okay. Where do you look for shorts? In my opinion, I look for shorts inside of bearish FEGs or above swing highs. Okay. I look to execute my model from a higher time frame level. Okay. You can clearly see this hourly gap here acting as a higher time frame level. You want to be you want to be positioning yourself from a higher time frame level. And notice, once again, it's all the same information. I'm only using swing highs, swing lows, and FEGs, right? The higher time frame level I used here was an FEG. All right. So what's the last thing that we need to this game plan? Once again, instead of handing it out, let's see if chat knows. We talked about creating an idea, which was the bias. We talked about a confirmation to the bias being the SMT. We have a higher time frame level to execute from. What else do we want to see before we engage with the idea? What's something that would help this? What's something that would provide conviction to this idea? What else do we want to see here? We already pointed to the SMT. Yes, SMT is something we want to see, but I'm referencing something else. So we need to see a clear draw on liquidity, right? We talk about equal highs or equal lows all the time, right? Equal highs or equal lows are one of our best forms of draw on liquidity. Okay, so in terms of targets, look at all of these equal lows in here. Okay, why weren't any of these ran out? Why do these look so clean? Equal highs or equal lows to act as a draw on liquidity. Equal highs or equal lows to act as a draw on liquidity. All right, so let's leave this stuff on the screen so you can see it during the time of. Then we go into a 5-minute chart. Price gets to your higher time frame level here. This is the hourly FVG. These are the equal lows. And what do we see? You can clearly see a very clean breaker block. Ready? Swing high, swing low, new high, new low. Whoa. What happened there? Right, so I spoke about this being my entry function, a breaker block, right? And then I need an FVG to be aligned with that breaker block. Right, it's small, but it is present, right? So take a look at that FVG right in here. All right, so now we have all of the confirmations to the model. We have the model present on the screen. We have an FVG aligned with it. Here is the breaker block plus the FVG. This is what we call the unicorn model. Therefore, we look to enter at the beginning of the breaker with a stop at the high, aiming for 2R. Okay, so any of these are entries, right? Well, this is the confirmation, so not this one. But 810 is an entry. Could have used any of these entries in here. 830, 835, 920, 925. And this thing runs nicely to target. So beautiful short position this morning. All of the concepts we use were present. Now chat. I said that there was a mistake. What was the mistake? Can you point it out? What is something that will be going into my journal about, when you journal, you analyze your pros and your cons. What would be something here that you would call a pro or a con? So far, there's been one right answer so far. 2 right answers. 3 right. Okay, some people are noticing it. Very good job. Very good job. Time. We've spoken about time many, many times. Get it? Time many, many times. We've spoken about New York Open being the important time, right? So if you look at my executions, I entered here at 8:10 and it went to target there at 8:20. So to execute before your hunting hours, right? If you're sitting there setting a rule for yourself and you're saying, I execute from 9:30 to 12, well, executing at 8:10 would be you breaking your rules, right? So that is something that you need to journal if that happens, right? And here it is. That's what I'm telling you. This is something that's going into my journal, right? This would be one of those mistakes that occurred, right? So this is a good conversation to have, and we're going to focus on this for a second before we move forward. You have to understand that you are human, okay? We need to have realistic expectations. And when I say realistic expectations, what I'm trying to say is if you think that you could be perfect, I'm sorry, but I personally don't believe in perfection, right? So, like, for example, if you think that you're only going to trade A plus setups 100% of the time, I'm not trying to burst your bubble here, but that seems a little unrealistic. Okay, if you can't understand that you're going to have mistakes, there will be times that you might have broke a rule, right? You need to be okay with that. Seriously, you will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. Thinking that you can obtain perfection is unrealistic. Okay, so you have to understand that setting realistic expectations is going to keep you out of a lot of negative emotions. Okay, a lot of negative mental responses, a lot of negative thoughts, right? Because if you're trying to chase perfection, you're not going to reach perfection. So every time you fail at reaching perfection, it's going to bother you. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm here to tell you that I make mistakes about 30% of the time, maybe even 40 or 50% of the time, just like every other normal human. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to allow it to send me into a spiral that ruins the entire account. Luckily, it was a winning trade. Yes, so at least, being able to take profits here was great, but that might even be worse than if it was a losing trade, right? A positive result to a negative habit. You don't want that. You don't want that. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that I'm human, just like everybody else. I make mistakes, and you need to be okay with that. Okay, you need to set realistic expectations. And in my opinion, realistic expectations would be knowing that you're going to make mistakes, knowing that you're going to get it right 50% of the time, you're going to get it right 60% of the time. And during those 40% of the time that you get it wrong, during the 40% of the time that you break your rules, you cannot allow that moment in time to ruin all of your hard work. You understand what I'm saying? Right? So when you make a mistake, don't let it send you into such a spiral, both mentally or emotionally, that you end up going to do something you know you shouldn't do. Right? Like, I'm not going to go in and blow my live account now just because I'm pissed off that I made a mistake today. No, I'm not. Because I'm going to control those emotions. I'm going to understand that 40% of the time I do make mistakes, and I'm going to live with that. I'm going to own it by documenting it. I'm going to own it by talking about it and figuring out ways to better the situation. That's what we're doing here right now, documenting it real time. Right? I've now recorded it on live stream because now I could go watch it back at another point in time. I've also documented it in both of my communities and in my Discord. So it's now via text and recording all of the mistakes. Okay? So I just want to make sure that everybody has some realistic expectations. That was the point to the conversation, that you understand you will make mistakes, that perfection is really not a realistic thing, that when you make those mistakes, you have to be okay with it and you have to learn from them, not allow those mistakes to derail you and ruin all of your hard work.